Alright, fellas, tomorrow we're going to be in the release of Signasu, Gladion, and Magearna again. Rerun. I should have said Pokemon Masters introduction. It's okay. Whatever, doesn't matter. So, Magearna. Gladion, Magearna. Of course, they are rerunning, and of course, this is not a typical rerun, because now we've got Master Fair tiles. Yippee! And he does have his 4 out of 5 and 5 out of 5 tiles here. I think I said those in reverse. Yes, 4 out of 5 and 5 out of 5. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't really change much. So, Gladion is, he's honestly in a really funny spot to me. He's a very good character. He's a strike sprint here. He's for fairy. He's very easy to use as a damage dealing character. Really good on release. Still really solid now. The funny thing about him to me is that if you have a very specific character at a very specific level of investment, you do not need this guy, and it is comedically Diantha. If you have Diantha at 10 out of 5, you do not need Gladion whatsoever, because Diantha is just broken. This Super Awakening passive is one of the single best things she could have gotten. Oh my god, I don't know why they are juicing Diantha this much, but they did. Like bruh. I wonder if let's just pick up that. Let's just have a lot of fun with this. Like, oh my god, her nuke is just insane. Her nuke is absurd now, man. Wow. Tech EX roll as well. Like, oh my god. Okay. I don't think I need to really like justify just how stupid Diantha became after her Super Awakening. Like, I mean, we all know she just got absolutely batshit insane. Like the last is crazy. She's pretty damned insane. That's probably not like the optimal grid build. It's just, I mean, I'm just kind of chilling around. We're here. Whatever. I was kind of just doing that for fun. But okay. Diantha's insane after her Super Awakening, and if you have her Super Awakening, you don't need Gladion. That's just like the takeaway you should make. But the thing with that is that I don't think anyone even had Diantha at 5 out of 5 before her Super Awakening, because she sucked. You know, like 3 out of 5 people probably had her at because of initial release. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool, we got sync tiles and stuff. But then like 4 out of 5 and 5 out of 5 didn't really do too much other than like, well, honestly, the utility is really good. I really actually do love her 4 out of 5 and 5 out of 5 tiles due to utility purposes, but for like her damage and stuff didn't really help anything, and most people would not have invested in that. Even with the EX scroll, most people didn't really invest, didn't really do too much for whatever. It was the fact she got Super Awakening and that made her busted. But obviously we all know the pros and cons of Super Awakening. Pros being a buff, cons being a buff you basically can't get. So that is why Signasu Gladion is an alternative. I believe Diantha and him have, I believe like over the course of a longer battle, Diantha outpaces Gladion's damage, because Gladion's big thing is he's got 2 nukes with his buddy move if you have him invested. Diantha does not really lose any of her firepower, where once Gladion uses his 2 buddy moves, well, he's mostly just got his DPS and his sync move, right? Which are solid, fine, whatever you want to call them, but Diantha's are still better. And that's like the big thing with her. But Gladion is obviously got the ease of investment, right? You can get Gladion to 3 out of 5 and have a unit that is not as strong as Diantha, but pretty damn close. Can be very close, and still probably better for like the damage challenge. I think. I'm not going to confirm that because I don't actually know for certain, but I would guess Gladion's still probably better for the damage challenge just because of like his ease of setup and like complete lack of reliance on sync spamming in order to win and get a lot of points. But I mean, obviously that's like very kind of niche. It's like if you're using damage challenge as like a way to like pull a unit, it's like, do you really need them in general? It's damage challenge, right? But whatever, it doesn't really matter too much. Gladion, I mean, he's easier to get. Well, he's easier to get to the investment you want him to be at, 3 out of 5, compared to Diantha, which is 10 out of 5, right? So Gladion still really good. Like, you can say slightly below Diantha or whatever. You can say they might be about equal. You can say literally whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Gladion does have that immense advantage over her, and like at least in that regard. But anyway, that's actually like talking about, I guess, pull viability, which, I mean, if you need a special striker, fairy striker, Gladion is literally your go-to. Again, him and Diantha are competing for the top spot, so I don't really need to say too much else on that. But in terms of his abilities, I mean, yeah, he's good. Like level 150 stats, he's got 675 HP, 167 defenses, which are whatever, 420 speed, which is decent, and 392 speed. Overall, fine enough stats. EX and EX roll do obviously like elevate those a lot. 480 special attack is definitely very respectable. 207 defenses is still fine. It's not like crazy, but he's in case a damage dealer. You don't want him to be trying to take a lot of attacks anyway, but I mean, you know, fine enough defensive stats, whatever. 835 HP is fine. It's 472 speed's pretty damn good. So, okay. Like, Gladion's definitely working off some pretty solid stats here. Obviously, though, not really his main selling point. It's not like he's Wally with, like, 700 or whatever that unit has. It's a lot. But he does have Fleur Cannon here. Fleur Cannon is a 4-gauge move, 220 power at 3 out of 5, 200 at 1 out of 5, 240 at 5 out of 5. It lowers his special attack by 2, but also he's got 90 accuracy. I love those 90 accuracy tiles. Not really, but he does buff his accuracy, I believe. Wait, does he not? I buffed his accuracy in his trainer. Does he not buff his accuracy at all? He does not buff his accuracy at all. Interesting. So does he have a Fleur Cannon accuracy? There it is. That's 2 out of 5. Okay, interesting play, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But this special attack debuffing does not actually proc because he's got this passive here, just give it up already, which prevents his stats from being lowered, lowers the enemy's special attack by 2 when he attacks the enemy with Fleur Cannon, and when the user's stat is lowered by an opponent, the amount is reflected back onto that opponent instead. Lowered by an opponent. Okay, what is the point of that, though? Why could you not just say when the user stat is lowered, the amount lowered is put on the opponent and just negate all of this instead? You could have written a significantly shorter passive, but whatever, that's fine. Doesn't really matter too much. I mean, you get the gist. His stats cannot be debuffed. The special attack that he debuffs to himself effectively gets put on the enemy with Fleur Cannon, and any stats that the enemies tried to debuff on him will get put back onto them instead. Well, I'm not sure if that counts for passive procs. I actually don't remember. Either way, it's still strong. So, point being, he can't be debuffed. It's a glorified way of saying he can't be debuffed, and he debuffs special attack by 2. But whatever, that's solid. Condition nullification, preventing flinching, confusion, trap, and also status conditions. Very, very basic, but very, very powerful. There's so many stages that like to inflict things like burn, some stupid conditions like freeze and stuff. Unlucky flinches can still get hit, of course, like enemies using rock slide or whatever. Confusion, similar case. I mean, yeah, it's good to have prevention from status conditions. That saves them against a lot of stages. A lot of stages have that gimmick. Of course, it can also be replaced depending on the stage with a lucky skill, but still, again, it's just nice to have. And then soften up 1 for guaranteed crits on the sync move. Very, very helpful as well. I always say guaranteed because every character can buff their crit. Mostly any striker can buff their crit without any issue. And he's no exception. His trainer move is 4-gauge, which is insane. No reason for that, but whatever. 1 use, buffs his special attack by 6, crit by 3, applies free moves next, and buffs his special moves next by 1. Very simple, very strong, very powerful. Gives him a lot of solid effects there. You're going to want that max special attack and crit, right? Obviously makes sense. It does, of course, also have the Alola Spirit Master passive, which... I mean, the only real way you can make use of this effectively, I would say, is pairing him with Holiday Lily, but you are 10 times better to just pair him up with Signature Wally instead, or someone to like apply Fairy Zone or buff him, or a secondary fairy damage dealer. I say that, but that's basically what Lily is. Probably, like, again, if you want to maybe run him with Diantha or something, like a double strike setup there, you could probably do that instead. Again, I'd probably just run Fairy Zone, though. But, like, if we want to look at Theoregion, Alola, like partners you can run with him, and just in fairies, Mina is a very good one. I don't want to downplay Mina. Mina's obviously a really strong support. Definitely can make use of her very, very well. Definitely could play as your support, be very, very effective. That honestly, and again, if you do want to make a solid fairy setup, I'm not going to be one to tell you that the top team here, this top row of characters, is going to be bad, because they are going to be good. They're going to be very effective. They're going to be making full use of Gladion's master passive. They're going to be strong. But I don't think it's the strongest fairy team. I think that's still... I don't know if Mina takes the slot for Penny or not. Just in terms of team like durability, she definitely does. But if you just want to enhance damage, Penny's rebuff still applies more, I believe. But then, of course, again, just saying, Gladion, Wally, Penny, really, really effective, really, really strong for damage. So that's probably still your best fairy setup. I would say... oh God. I would say that... Are you shitting me? I don't care for Alola. I would say that Lacey is really good. Lacey's got herself, of course, the EX Fairy Zone and stuff like that, and plays pretty similar to Wally, except for the fact that she does not have a really good nuke like Wally. That is one of the big issues that she does not have, but of course she does have extra utility to play alongside that. You could pair her up and combine her with Cygnus Umina, who can set Fairy Zone right, which will help out with her setting of EX Fairy Zone, but also at the same time, I think that's a little bit odd to play. She sets her EX Fairy Zone here, which is when Gauge Acceleration is applied. So you would want to do this before Mina uses her Sync move so that Mina could then set it and extend it, or set her Fairy Zone and extend it. And then, of course, I think Mina also sets it, assuming you have her Super Awakened, which is another fun thing to consider. Yeah, first use of Rain Dance, she sets Fairy Zone, so there's another set of it there, right? I don't know. I think the Fairy's biggest problem right now is probably the fact that Lacey's very hard to slot into a team. I think Fairy does want another very top tier Fairy Zone setter, like a more on-demand setter. Mina's definitely not bad at it, but being able to set it on the Sync move is gonna force you out of like syncing with Gladion for damage if you want to try and maintain the EX Fairy Zone for as long as possible, right? So there is definitely stuff to consider there. But, you know, you kind of have to gauge whether that's worthwhile or not. And that's just Gladion there at 1 out of 5 for the most part. At least in terms of his passives and his non-crazy abilities. He's got the buddy move. Well, also, okay, XP plus, this is like whatever. It's kind of there just to be there. But he's got the Piercing Floor Cannon buddy move. This is one of the strongest buddy moves in the game for the most part. It's 4 gauge, 1 use, 220 power, hits all enemies, never misses. It's activated whenever the Pokemon uses any move once. So, Floor Cannon, deactivated when used. And 1 use here. Never misses. More target's current special attack is lowered, the greater the power of the attack. The power of this move is not lowered even if there are multiple targets. The more the currently targeted opponent's special attack is lowered, the more it increases the user's special moves next, increases by up to +3. So, you use the buddy move, get a lot of power out of it. It's very strong, it's AoE, no split damage, blah, 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 whatever. It's obviously going to be very, very powerful. Right, makes sense. Kind of like, let's say, Alder's Buddy Hyper Beam. Similar. And then, or is it Hyper Beam? Whatever. Arc Alder's buddy move. I don't remember what. Yeah, I think it's Hyper Beam, but I'm not going to go back and verify. And then you get the +3 special moves next after the fact, which can then power up your next Floor Cannon. Or you can probably chain it into the next buddy move if you sync and have him threadify, but we'll go into that in a little bit later, right? So, obviously, very, very strong move. If you're, obviously, I would recommend you invest in Gladion for, like, extra copies, for multipliers, extra nuclear energy, basically, weapons, whatever. You know, I would do that. I would invest in his grid. He gets so much good stuff out of this, and I would not just like keep him at 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5. Definitely invest in him more. But if you don't, well, you still have a lot of the power that comes out of this, and this can be made very, very strong. So again, I say it's one of the strongest buddy moves still in the game. It's still very impressive. It is one of the biggest reasons why people do not consider his DPS to be super lackluster, is because, well, part of his DPS comes with 2 uses of this if you're 3 out of 5, 1 use of it if you're not. So yeah, just something to consider. This is very strong. It can make Gladion look very, very impressive, very, very, very helpful for newer players. If you don't have any like super strong DPS, it'll make him very, very powerful in a good way for like a new player to really get going in the game. In terms of the grid, nothing at 1 out of 5 really. Sand shelters, whatever. Some extra like power tiles, not even the accuracy tiles. 2 out of 5 is where he gets that +10 Floor Cannon energy tile. Accuracy tile, whatever. Super duper effective 2 KO opponent special moves up next by +2. I don't know why they wouldn't stop naming these tiles like this. Gauge refresh on Floor Cannon, X speed plus NPR, train move NPR, speedster sync 3, super sync regen. Okay, fine enough tiles. Sync regen, nice enough for a little bit of healing. Again, gauntlet stuff. XP plus, pretty much useless. No, it is actually extremely useless because his stats cannot be debuffed, meaning you don't have to worry about debuffs on happening onto his speed. This is a useless tile. This is literally just here for filler. That's it. Train move NPR, you can say it's useful for the free moves next and the special moves next, but it literally takes 4 gauge to use. So I don't think trading 4 gauge for 1 special moves up next is worth just using another Floor Cannon. And I don't think it's worth it for the free moves next, because again, you're just canceling itself out. So, but I don't really think it's worth doing, so just no. Speedster Sync 3 multiplier, Sync multiplier. You're going to want this, but you're also going to want to pair it with his 3 out of 5 abilities. So it doesn't really do much on its own. Not that great. Kind of just filler. At 3 out of 5, right? It's not going to be that big of a power up. I mean, he's a strike. He doesn't have any innate sync multipliers other than this, and crit strike 2 if you run it. Again, that's it. Super duper effective 2. You know, if he's on type, again, damage challenge or state like any fairy week stage. What is the fairy week ultimate battle? Wall? No. Evelyn or Morgan? Morgan's dragon. Evelyn, right? Sure, Evelyn, right? I mean, I think Evelyn is probably the stage that he's for the most part designed for, alongside Penny. But whatever. Doesn't really matter that much. He can clean sweep it without too much trouble as is. Again, the accuracy tile, very helpful for guaranteeing the accuracy there, because he doesn't buff any accuracy or anything, and finding an accuracy buffer is honestly not like the easiest thing to do at this point, especially for supports, but hey, there you go. KO opponent special boost. This is a very good tile if you can get it to proc. If you have it here, it is right next to overpower at 3 out of 5, which you will want to pick up 100%. So, you know, if you do pick this up, this is going to be very helpful. You KO the sides, you get +2 or +4 special moves next, depending on how many sides you KO. That's going to be very, very helpful to have. Flare Cannon, Gauge Refresh, again, more gauge stuff, mostly gauntlet-based abilities, but if you are playing on a team that does not have very good gauge efficiency, this can be helpful on top of the speed buffs he applies to himself and the moderate free moves next, which again, still using 4 gauge to do so, kind of cancels itself out, but whatever, it's fine. And then he got Super Sync here as well. Again, damage challenge tile, very, very helpful. And again, if you're facing like Evelyn or some Fairy Week stage, you can get good use of it as well. And it does, of course, the sync does get powered up by Speedster Sync, so a little bit more value to go for there. Obviously, 2 out of 5 is like not really crazy for him, but it does give him a start in like his damage enhancing and minor utility with mostly gauge management and minor healing stuff. 3 out of 5, he gets Overpower, Trainer Move Special Boost, Brain Power, First Sync Move, Restoring the Buddy Move, Propulsion on the Trainer Move, BOGO on XP Plus, Sync Move on Opponent, Special Attack down by 4, and Discourage 2, and the Sync tiles. Okay, most of these tiles are good. Propulsion and BOGO on these abilities. BOGO is probably really solid for the Gauntlet. I could definitely see it being very helpful there. Propulsion, not really so much. Him having Sync Countdown reducing stuff is solid. I mean, he does have the Sprint DX roll. You got to consider that. He does get the Sync Countdown after using a Sync move. And if you do want to run him like with someone like Signasuit Wally, I believe Wally has Head Start 2, doesn't he? He's got Head Start 1, but you can probably run Head Start. Thank you. I didn't want... Okay, whatever. You can probably run him with like Head Start 1 in the grid, or if you want to run Head Start 1 as a lucky skill, or just run a third character that has another notch of Sync Countdown. You know, you can get stuff like that to work out. That's another reason why this team is so good. Its Sync Countdown and Sync Acceleration is really, really strong. So you can combine those if you want to, but for the most part, pretty niche tile. Again, mostly gauntlet-based ability. Here, I would say the free moves next, I can't really think of too many cases where you'd want to use this or make use of this otherwise. He does have the Sync move on opponent, special attack down by 4. This is helpful. Hits the targeted opponent with a Sync move. I don't think it's AoE. I don't have Gladion. If you couldn't tell, I don't have Gladion. I never summoned for him. I don't plan to summon for him again. But I don't think this is AoE because of the Strike EX. I think it might just count towards the enemy that he initially synced. But if it is AoE, nice. If it's not, honestly, it doesn't really matter that much. The way his buddy, you only really want the special attack debuffs for, I mean, I guess Overpower, but also for the buddy move. But the buddy move gets it based off of whatever enemy it is currently targeting. So it's not really going to worry too much. It's probably not going to really worry too much about forcing you to like debuff sides. But again, the tile is there. Discourage 2, similar case. I don't think you need it. I don't think you need this crazy oppressive special attack debuffing, which he does, spoiler, get at 5 out of 5 for free, I guess, which is the best part of it. But whatever, but again, I don't really think he needs these tiles. I don't think these do too much for him. At the very, very least, if you do want or do need those special attack debuffs, like, a lot, again, one of his better partners, Signasuit Wally, I think Wally has, I don't know where, I'll be frank with you, I don't even know where it is in the grid. Somewhere in here, he's got the ability to debuff special attack, I believe. Somewhere. Okay, I'll have to find it. I mean, there's Mind Boggler there. He's got Discombobulate for accuracy. Nice. Oh, yeah, right here. Special attack debuffs by 4. There we go. Took me a little bit to find it, but it is there. So, -4 special attack on all enemies with his buddy move. So, again, that can work with Gladion very, very well. So, you don't really need that super oppressive special attack debuffing. Anyway, Overpower and Brain Power. I mean, I don't need to explain this. Overpower goes into the buddy move, which, by the way, first thing move, restore buddy move. There we go. That's what I've been talking about earlier. You want those 2 uses of the buddy move. That's going to be making his damage look so much more impressive, on top of having an actual multiplier behind it with Overpower here, which of course being based off special attack debuffs is why Flare Cannon debuffs special attack on the enemy. And why, of course, the extra power is fed into here, where he gets even more power from having enemies special attack debuffs. It's just more reason to go for special attack debuffs, which, again, I don't think you need any extra grid tiles to do it, but they are there. And again, you got partners with like Signasuit Wally. But yeah, you want the Brain Power for the Sync move, combine that with Speedster Sync, of course, that's a lot of good multiplier stuff. You got the extra use of the buddy move, you got the Overpower to buff both of the buddy moves, as well as all of your Flare Cannon damage, and that's what's making Gladion look like a pretty impressive fairy DPS unit. Again, it's still funny to me that he is really competing with Diantha, or Diantha's competing with him, however you want to word it, however you want to look at it, doesn't really matter. The fact that they're on like similar levels to each other is pretty funny to me, despite Gladion being a Master Fair, but Yeah, this is why he's able to compete, is because he gets 2 uses of Boeing 747 levels of damage, right? He gets 2 uses of that. It's pretty good. Again, think of like Mark Lance and his strength or something like that. Just something similar. So those are the biggest tiles, of course. Sync tiles again to add to the extra power there. And then the trainer move special boost here. This is fine. I mean, it gives you extra reason to go for the XP plus. It gives you the extra special moves next. I'm using the buddy move here, or the trainer move rather. There is decent usage of it, I guess. Again, if you like are out of gauge or whatever and you need to use a move, XP plus is kind of what that is there for, and it also helps out your gauge. And well, in this case, it will give you special moves next as well. I can see the use in it. I'm not sure if I would go for it or not, but maybe that would probably just depend on the build. I mean, clearly already out of energy, so I probably wouldn't. Just being honest, I very, very likely would not. But anyway, a lot of people are probably just going to go for 4 out of 5, or sorry, 3 out of 5 on this unit, which, I mean, if I were to take a guess, you would need to pick up Overpower 100%. You would probably skip out on that sync tile, and you would just do something like this. -4 energy, whatever, doesn't matter, but there you go. You got that grid, miss on a sync tile, tough. Doesn't really matter that much. 4 out of 5, he gains debut or first sync move, special moves up 1. Nice, right? He gains special moves up next by 1 on entry and special moves up next on using his sync move. The sync move is nice. Again, you do refresh the usage of the buddy move here with his sync move. You could chain the sync move plus the extra special moves next he gains here from using the buddy move into another buddy move. If you think about it, you could like use your support syncs or, you know, whatever other character sync move, use Gladion's buddy move, immediately sync with Gladion, restore your buddy move, and then chain those +3 special moves up next, the special moves up next here, maybe even special moves up next from KOing opponents if you were lucky to KO them on the last buddy move, and then chain that again into your next buddy move, which could be 4, 5, 6, 7, however many special moves up next boosted. And that could be really good. Again, that's just one way to play around with this character. I'm not sure how effective that actually is. You know, it's a big part of this game is actually playing with the unit and seeing how they work, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I can see good use for the tile on that. Do I think it's really worthwhile to go for? No. I mean, obviously, if you've got Gladion 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, you're going to pick it up anyway because it's 0 energy, and it's not a bad tile to pick up. There's very rarely cases where they make those. Accuracy ceiling. Which, for the unit it's on, it's good, but it's not the point. But you're going to pick this up just because it's 0 energy, and it means you get extra energy uses here, so, you know, in some cases, you could go for things like this, where you could actually pick up the extra sync tile. It could be, that's most of the biggest uses for these extra grid tiles, in my opinion, is that it frees up their grid a lot to where you can spread out and pick up different things that the character may have wanted prior. I think in this case, this is like a good example of that. And then 5 out of 5, he gets Floor Cannon hit, special attack down by 4. This just makes it so he debuffs enemy special attack by 6 every single time he uses Floor Cannon, because you've got the innate -2 here from this passive, and then you got -4 right there. And again, 0 energy, so you can free up his grid, pick this up. There we go. We've got ourselves -4. If you want to go to -10, you know, you could try and pick up some extra, like, +5 power tiles there. Or, honestly, his grid doesn't really have anything good. That's, honestly, this is, like, the optimal grid, I would say, for him. Whatever you want to go for, though. I mean, there are options, I suppose. But it is there. And I guess in this case, it does make these... I don't think this works off of multiple enemies or whatever, but like if you want to target a specific enemy with this floor cannon just means you have to hit 1, 2, 3 enemies, and then boom, they're all at -6, assuming they don't buff their special attack. That is like probably the best use of this. Again, I don't think it's a great tile. If the enemy's constantly buffing their stats, then sure, can be very helpful on that front, but if they're not, it doesn't really matter that much. So it's a whatever tile to me. At least I think so. Maybe for like setting up faster, it's really good. Maybe. And again, freeing up grid energy, that's its biggest use case. But other than that, I don't think it's 3 out of 5, or sorry, it's 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 are very worth going for. I don't think either tile improves him by a lot. Again, it's just the fact that they are 0 energy and allows him to pick up other things for better ease cases. And even in that case, like, go to 4 out of 5 if that is really how you want to play, because right there. Because this way, he's at +8 energy, and he's able to pick up the extra sync tile. That's like the biggest use case for this. But again, you don't really need that extra sync tile. You can just go for something like this. I mean, yeah, there we go. +6, you can go for that. I just think that's the best way to play around with this character, probably. I'm just mostly just guessing around. But, I mean, yeah, obviously, big thing. Gladion, still really, really good unit. Really, really strong. I don't think I need to, like, really really elaborate on that. The next best option is literally Diantha, who is the best option, but I mean, I don't. Do you want to try and pull for Gladion and invest him 2 candies, or do you want to pull for Diantha and invest 9? You tell me. that's kind of assuming you don't have Diantha already invested, but still. Right, whatever. Just pull Gladion. it's gonna make your life so much easier. Unless you're a Diantha and Gardevoir fan or whatever, blah blah blah. You know, then there's your case. Sure. Also, I want to say, consider the Fairy Arc Suit's coming out. Fairy Arc Suit, if it's a big damage dealer, could end up replacing Gladion entirely, or it could end up really making him a lot stronger. But also at the same time, I believe the Fairy Arc Suit has a very, very almost confirmed chance to be Diantha and Gardevoir, which is honestly pretty sick. I like Diantha, I like Gardevoir, they're pretty cool. So that'd be funny. Very non-unique outfit though. Let's just add that. Diantha's already her whole color scheme's already white. Where is she? Whole color scheme's already like white and I believe like gold trims on some of her styles. I should look at her design. Yeah, okay, I'm not gaslighting myself. Yeah, literally already white and gold trim. So what is an arc suit actually gonna do for her? It's just gonna make her like kind of maybe invert the things, make her like a gold suit and give her white trims. I don't know. It'd be funny though. Either way, I'm very curious to see how they do that arc suit, but I do think that's what the arc suit will be, Diantha and Gardevoir. And again, they could end up replacing Gladion, or they could end up really enhancing him. But at the same time, if they end up enhancing Gladion, they're likely going to end up enhancing Diantha a lot just the same, especially because they're literally the same character. So it would not surprise me whatsoever. Just things to consider, you know, whatever. That's the big things to consider with Gladion. Should you go for him because of the arc suit? Should you go for him if you already plan on investing Diantha or you already have her invested? Or should you just go for him in general? Because maybe you don't need a broken Fairy Striker. Maybe you can just off-type any Fairy Week content and call it a day. Which is a very, very viable way to play the game as well. Just things to consider. Just things to consider. He's not a very gimmick-checky type of unit. Just kind of debuffs for the most part. And I guess like immunities to status conditions, which are pretty good and kind of underrated, but you know, there's a decent amount of characters that can do that nowadays, or can have ways to patch around that. Anyway, whatever. I've yapped for too much. That's your overview for Signature Gladion and his extra buffs. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Let me know what you think about his buffs in the comments below as well. And yeah, I'll see you later. I hope you all enjoyed. Peace.